are you a person that often like says, oh, I don't want to do this because what if this happens, or I don't want to go to here because what if this person sees me, or whatever it is. There's a quote by Peter. It's called a pessimist is a man who looks both ways before crossing a one-way street. And I don't agree with that, because I feel like you shouldn't see the worst in situations and kind of just do it. I mean, we're all young, just do it. And I'm going to give you like a few examples. First example I have is in October. My parents are like, okay, like, we're going to go on vacation. Like, I don't want anyone at the house. I don't want you to do anything. I need you to send me your schedule for work. And like, I told my friends, I'm like, guys, like, they're leaving. Like, what should we do? You know, it's Halloween. Like, that's my favorite holiday. And they're like, bro, like, throw a party. And I was like, dude, like how? Like, how do I do it? And I was like, you know what? Like, I know they're going to get mad. They told me not to do it, but whatever. Like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm not going to look at the worst. And, like, I started thinking, like, okay, like, what if they find out? Like, what if I get grounded? What if they kick me out? But I was like, no, like, they love me. It's not going to happen. Like, I'll just do it. So I did it. And I had, like, 300 people at my house. It was the fattest party, like, I could ever, like, think of. And I was like, oh, my gosh, like, I did this, you know? And they get a call. And some guy that, like, long story short, like, some guy that I used to talk to, like, saw that I was there. And, like, I didn't invite him, so he called my mom. And he was like, hey, like, she threw a big party. He FaceTimed her, and she calls me. She's like, so what are you doing? And I go outside, and I was like, nothing, just, like, hanging out. She's like, oh, like, I want you to turn your FaceTime and show me, like, the house. And, like, there's just, like, this group of, like, so many people, and, like, I couldn't even, I was like, oh, like, I'm done. So they get home from their vacation, and, yeah, like, I was grounded. But, like, I don't regret it. I'm just, like, whatever, like, it happened, like, they still love me, like, I don't know, like, I didn't want to look at the bad. And, like, I know it's bad, and, like, I learned from that because, like, last weekend, they left again, and they're like, hey, like, I don't want anyone, like, this time, like, seriously, like, don't have anyone. I mean, I had, like, 10 people, but it wasn't, like, 300 people. So, like, that's, like, a kind of an example of, like, you shouldn't really look, just kind of do it, like, whatever. And then a second example is, this was recently, actually. Like, I really, really, like, all my friends into, like, raving and all that. And so, like, come on, let's go to EDC. Like, I've been to, like, music festivals, but I've never been to EDC. And I was like, you know what, like, finals, or, like, I can't, like, there's finals coming up. And they're like, dude, like, come on, like, and so that's me thinking, like, the worst, like, what if, like, I don't have enough time to study, or, like, what if, like, whatever. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it, like, I'm not gonna be going to that kind of stuff, like, when I'm older. So I was like, if anything, I could study on my way there, or, like, on my way back. Like, I'll figure it out. And then my last example is, like, another thing, like, looking the worst into things is, like, I have a brother, and he has a best friend, and, like, they've been best friends forever, like, since they were young. And, like, he's had his own girlfriends, she's had her own boyfriends and everything. And, like, one day, like, and they know everything about each other, so it's kind of weird. But, so one day, like, he tells me, he was like, dude, like, I think, like, I really, really like her. Like, it's weird, like, like, I don't even, like, want to ruin, like, our friendship, like, that's so weird. And I was like, dude, like, just do it, like, you don't know. And she tells me the same thing, but, like, I never go and I tell them what they say. Like, she'll tell me, like, the other day, like, we went out to lunch, and I really, really, like, it was so weird. I felt like it was a date, and that's never happened. And so, like, I'll be, like, instigating back and forth. But, so I was like, you know what, like, just do it. Like, and then my parents were like, yeah, like, you guys are so comfortable with each other, like, might as well, you know? So now they ended up, like, being boyfriend and girlfriend, and they're, like, the coolest couple ever. And that's, like a way of him, like, thinking, like, the worst. Like, what if our friendship gets ruined, and, like, they've been together for a while now, and, like, they're totally happy, and just do it. Just do it.
Someone's the next fighter?
All right, well, there are a lot of things in the presentation that make it feel like you're involved and engaged in talking to us. Your energy level is high. There's a lot of variety in your voice. You speak continuously for the most part. There isn't a lot of hesitation as you're going from one place to another. There are, however, a whole bunch of things that are also a little problematic and distracting, and I'll talk about those in just a second. Let's talk about the structure of the speech first. Your idea was solid at the beginning. I thought you had a pretty straightforward statement of what your point was going to be. There's not really a preview of what the supporting material is going to be. You just kind of go right into the examples. The examples develop pretty well. You've got plenty of detail when you're telling the stories. I think people can be intrigued and engaged with what you're talking about with the amount of detail that you provide. It does feel like the second story runs out and then you aren't really quite sure where to go at that point. And because it just feels like you were telling one story after another, it's not quite as complete as an idea as it ought to be. But like I said, the content I thought was well explained and interesting while you're doing that. The thing that is problematic about the presentation, you got two or three things that you're doing. First of all, you are way too expansive and energetic with your gestures and your feet movement, especially at the beginning of the speech. There's nothing wrong with being like you're talking about something and emphasizing a point as you get to the climax of a story, but you are like this from the very beginning with the hands and the gestures and the body movements, and it looks like all this is nervous energy that's coming out instead of being directed at the point that you're trying to make and make that point more interesting. It's just like I'm going to keep going and going and going, and so you are overdoing that, and you need to settle down and focus a little bit more on getting into the stories, and then think about how you're going to attach those things. You have a tendency to swing from one side to the other while you're talking. That's also a little distracting. You don't look at us very much when you're talking. 90% of the time that when you're speaking, you are giving the speech to the upper corner of the room or the back of the room or just, sometimes down below. Once in a while, you do kind of engage a couple of people in the class, but it's like I think I said it to somebody else earlier, you're speaking in front of the audience instead of speaking to the audience. And you really want to engage with the people that you're talking to. Otherwise, it's just like watching somebody go through an exercise instead of listening to a speech. So that means that you have to, your facial expressions are animated, but they need to be connected to talking to people. It needs to look like you are responding to them and they are responding to you while you are engaging them. If you were having this conversation with somebody, like one of your friends at one of those parties, which sounds like everybody wants to go to, it would be like, well, who are you even talking to? If I was sitting on one end of the couch and you were sitting on the other end of the couch and you were talking that way, I'd feel like, who are they performing for? Because they're not really talking to me. And you want us to feel like you are engaging with us. And I think you'll see that when you watch the video of yourself that, although you've got energy in your voice and I think you act confidently when you're speaking, it sometimes is disengaged from the people that you're talking to. All right, thank you.